Thank you everyone for attending this info session, this information webinar about our Integrative Acupuncture Certificate that is going to be delivered this summer 2020 in Toronto, Canada. So before I start, I just want to introduce briefly myself. My name is Odette Valero. I'm marketing manager for the Health Leadership Learning Network at York University in Canada. And with me this afternoon, I have the privilege to have Poney Chiang, which is our program director of the Integrative Acupuncture Certificate and also a world-renowned instructor. So Poney pretty much travels around the world. He's invited to different presentations to speak about his research and also teach in different locations. And we are really happy to have him as our program director of our certificate here in Canada. So Poney is going to help me to kind of talk to you about the program content, and also the outcomes of it. And in the meantime, I'm also will have the opportunity to share with you more about us as an institution, the institution that is hosting this certificate. But before I just take you through the agenda of today, I'm just a little bit of housekeeping. So we're going to cover, we're going to go through a session of questions and answer at the end of this info session. In case you have any questions, please, I will ask you to share that through the chat that we have here in the Zoom. If you are not familiar with Zoom, I will actually ask you to please unmute yourself. You'll find a small microphone in this in the left bottom corner, just to avoid any kind of like noise. Or and also and the same thing, if you have any questions throughout the presentation, I will really encourage you to start writing us through the chat. We will actually read some of your questions at the end of this webinar, or in case we don't have enough time, I will be happy to personally email you back with any kind of additional information. So for today, this is the agenda, or there are some of the topics we are going to cover as part of this session. So a little bit about us, York University, the Health Leadership Learning and Learning Network. And of course, the most important part of this session is we're going to talk about the Integrative Acupuncture Certificate, general information about it, the program contents, the course outcomes, and at the end, we're going to talk about the registration process and answer any questions that you might have, and also share our contact information for any additional information you may need. So to start, I just want to explain or just introduce briefly York University, that is the institution that is a host of this Integrative Certificate. So if you are not familiar with York University, so York University is located in Canada. You will see the website here, www.yorku.ca, if you want to get familiar with us. So York University is a public research university in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. So Ontario is one of the main provinces in Canada. The university was founded in 1959, so it has been a couple of years from now. It has two main campuses. So we have Kiel, which is one of the main campus, is the main campus, and is where actually the certificate is going to take place. And then we have Glendon campus. York University is the second largest university in Ontario and the third largest in Canada. It has seven faculties and 28 research centers. York is really well known, globally recognized nationally and internationally for not only for the quality of its programs, but also for all the research work it does. This is about York. Now about the Health Leadership and Learning Network. So the Health Leadership and Learning Network is part of the Faculty of Health at York University. So we are the ones in charge of developing courses, continuing education for professionals, what we call also lifelong learning. So for those ones who graduated and they want to kind of keep learning or develop new skills, we develop different courses specifically for health professionals. So the acupuncture certificate is one of them. It's one of our main programs. And you will see a print screen there, just to give you an idea how our website looks like. And the website is hlln.info.yorku.ca. And you will see that if you go to the top bar, you will see all our certificates listed, and specifically under the Summer Institutes, if you actually click on that and you scroll, you will see the Integrative Acupuncture Certificate in case you want to learn more about it, about Poney Chiang, our instructor, about us, and their prerequisites. You will find all the information there. So what makes the Health Leadership Learning Network different to any other organization? So first of all, we offer practical and applied courses that are university-based, and they are developed by leading subject matter experts, as is the case of Poney Chiang and all the other instructors that actually teach our courses. They are really well known globally. The courses, all our courses are delivered in small interactive groups with professional peers. That gives you more time to practice what you learn in class. We have online and also in-class courses. In the case of the acupuncture one, everything is in class. We also, they are customizable to meet organizational needs. That means that we not only use university-based research, but also we talk with different partners in the industry to make sure our courses are informed based on the needs of the industry. The other advantage that we offer is that we are moving into what we call digital credentials. And if you are not familiar with this, so it's a new way to start sharing through social media platforms, digital-based, all the knowledge that you keep accumulating, your skills. Instead of sharing a paper, like your resume through a paper-based tool, you can use it now. You can share it through social media. So there's some courses where we are able to offer these kind of digital credentials. Now, moving into the most relevant part of this info session is about the Integrative Acupuncture Certificate. So here you will just see a summary of the most relevant information of this certificate. However, as I mentioned, you can find this information in our website as well. So now this certificate is usually offered twice per year, so in the summer and in the fall time. However, for this specific session, I'm just going to talk about the summer session, specifically the dates and the cost. However, take in mind the content in the summer and the fall session is the same. Now, the summer session is 12 sessions. It starts from July 6th and it finishes to July the 21st. You will see that there's some days in between, some free days where you have this opportunity, and that's why we're decided to do this in a really kind of close to consecutive dates. So you have the time to travel around Ontario, go to Niagara, or perhaps if you have the time and you want to, you can also go to the States. There's a couple of cities in the US really close to Toronto. So that's the reason why it has been offered in the summertime, to give you that opportunity. Now, the certificate takes place in York University in the Kiel campus that, as I mentioned, is one of the main campuses of York University. It's in Toronto, Ontario. The cost of this certificate is in Canadian dollars. I just want to emphasize this, that everything is in Canadian dollars. So it's $5,650 with all taxes included. Now, the prerequisites is you have to be a registered acupuncturist, and also you need to have a minimum of 200 hours of practice. Now, I just want to emphasize this is not an entry program, so you need some type of previous experience for that. So to get to get all the benefit of the certificate. At the end of this course, at the end of the 12 sessions, you will get certificate of completion. And one really relevant, something really relevant about the certificate is that it has been accredited by different relevant organizations in Canada, in Ontario, and also in the US. Is like in, and you will see some of them really relevant organizations related to this. Now I want to kind of give the opportunity to Poney to take you through the program content and the outcomes of the course. Thank you, Poney. Poney, when you see it.
Perfect, I see it now.
Let me just bigger screen. Yep.
Thank you. Thank you everybody for joining this info session. I'd like to start by describing what is it that we're going to look forward to sharing with you in this amazing intensive learning opportunity. Usually this program is taught over 3 months time, which obviously can be challenging for international students to travel that many times. So we are excited to offer this program in a super condensed format. And there are, you can think about the skills that you're going to learn in this program in terms of 3 major categories. As you can see from the first bullet on the top of the slide, that we will be learning different forms of needling technique. The first one is called the neuromyofascial twitch response. And that is actually another way of calling dry needling. But I want to emphasize that this is a nervous system oriented approach to dry needling. And what that means is that we are looking for specific activation of muscles by specific conformation through the needle and muscle interface. And so even if you have some experience with dry needling before, we are looking forward to showing you how you may be able to do that in a more reproducible manner. And also certain muscles that are perhaps deeper than your other muscles. That is not, these are considered more advanced techniques. A lot of times your average dry needling courses don't go into that much detail of covering all the possible targets that a needle can reach. So we're going to really round out for you some very superficial as well as deep targets. The second technique you're going to learn, as you can see, is called the peripheral nerve electromodulation. So one of the differentiating factors about our program is that we take a simultaneously an Eastern and Western approach. And when it comes to the Western approach, we have a focus on the peripheral nervous system. And we look forward to sharing with you my original research, how traditional acupuncture points and a lot of the meridians that we learned in the Chinese medicine or acupuncture training actually has immaculate overlap with the peripheral nervous system. So we actually learn to target these nerves and learn how to stimulate them. And the third portion of the training is called central nervous system stimulation. We are going to look forward to showing you how, instead of just stimulating the peripheral nervous system, which is what usually happens when you needle on the body, somatic acupuncture, there will be ways that we show you how to needle the ear and the scalp so that we can actually bypass the peripheral nervous system and bring a central nervous system aspect. And this would be very valuable for treatment of neurodegenerative problems. But even if you were somebody that interested in sports medicine, being able to stimulate the cerebellum to improve coordination, to improve balance, directly translate to better athletic performance. We always enjoy the cadaver lab component of the program, and that's where students have a chance to interact physically with the muscles and nerve tissue that we learn in the classroom setting. And so that it helps students who are more visual oriented, also more tactile learners, to be able to better imagine what angle, what depth they need to insert their needles to target these specific nerves and precise muscles that we're going to be sharing with you in this course. What one thing that people, based on their feedback to us, is that one thing that they really enjoy about the York University program is that we don't just address the Western medicine and the anatomical aspect. We still stay very true to the traditional Chinese medicine classics. So believe it or not, we're actually going to visit some of the classical Chinese uh, phrases from the Yale Emperor's Classic of Internal Medicine, looking at sections that are relevant to pain and needle technique, and what advice the ancient sages tell us about what we should do with our needles and what response should we expect with acupuncture, and tie that in together with the anatomy and the traditional acupuncture meridian theory. Lastly, it would not be a complete course if we don't show you some clinical uh, tools and pearls. So we have prepared for you various strategies and protocols that, of course, no patient is exactly alike, but when we're learning something new, sometimes useful to have a simple building block or template to follow. And then so that when you encounter that situation in clinical practice, you have an idea of what to start. And so the goal is to give you very relevant, real-world, practical knowledge so that you can treat various type of orthopedic, nerve, central nervous system problems. May I have the next slide, please? So as an example of the original research that you're going to learn in our program, what you're seeing here is a dissection of the forearm. And on the very top of the page, the photo shows you in yellow the superficial branch of the radial nerve. And if you focus in on the picture, you'll see that there are two little blue circles that are actually pointing to the points lung 7 and lung 8. So one of the my main area of interest of my research is really systematically characterizing the precise neuroanatomy of every single acupuncture point in the body. So we're going to learn this, but the reason why we want to learn this is because it informs us of what type of needle sensation patients should receive. So if I can draw your attention to the two artistic renditions on the bottom of the slide, you will readily recognize that this is describing aspects of lung channel theory, where on the left, the lung channel distributes not just to the thumb, but it has a branch towards the index fingers, as shown by the dotted line. But if you look at the bottom right figure, you'll see that there's kind of a cross-hatched chevron design over the thenar region, and the arrow says that it spreads into thenar. This, of course, is describing the lual or the collateral connections of the lung meridian. And if you now compare those two pictures on the bottom with the dissection on top, you'll be able to appreciate that the ancient information that's passed on in classic is actually a very, very, very precise and accurate description of how the superficial branch of the radial nerve arborizes. And so not only is this important for us to be able to connect the east and west, but understanding the neuroanatomy means that when we needle or stimulate lung 7, or when we needle or stimulate lung 8, we now know based on the effect of the needle and nerve interaction, what is the paresthesia or sensation that you should obtain when you needle each specific points. In other words, that's called de qi sensation, or obtaining the qi. You will be able to learn what is it that is supposed to happen, so that you will be able to get the results that the ancient text describe associated with each of the indications of those points. Next slide, please. Here you're looking at, as an example, the channel sinew of the large intestine. And then, so one thing that we're going to learn is that we're going to learn what are the myofascial structures associated with the each channel sinew. And the reason why that becomes important is because it helps us decide how to choose a distal point that is relevant to a proximal problem. And this is actually also original work that myself and my team have done. If I can have the next slide, we can see that these artistic renditions I just showed you are actually based on anatomical findings. This work was obviously inspired by the work of Thomas Myers, but the way we did this differently than Myers and other people that have tried to do some similar myofascial chain related research is that we wanted to again stay true to the Chinese medicine classic. So we look at what the classics say about these chain of sinews and reproduce the exact pathways as described in the chapter 13 of the spiritual pivot, and that is actually something that's quite original. The work that's done by other people, because they may not have a very deep interest in Chinese medicine, did not take the time to compare the similarities and differences between the Chinese classic and the modern chain of sinew anatomy. So just as a quick clinical tool, as you can see here, the label G is pointing to the trapezius muscle, and it is myofascially continuous with I, which is the temporalis muscle. And we know from Janet Travell's famous myofascial trigger point referral diagrams, when one has trigger points in the trapezius, it can refer to the temporalis and even refer into the masseter, which is indicated by the structure J. So that's an example how by understanding the channel of sinew and corresponding that with the neuromyofascial kneeling or dry kneeling that we're going to learn, we were going to be able to select distal points, but also address the underlying root factors of the problem. Next slide, please. In keeping with the large intestine we just talked about, what you're looking at here is the lateral aspect of the upper arm. So if I can draw your attention to the upper photo, you'll see that there's a points large intestine 11, large intestine 14 demonstrated. So that's the lateral aspect of the upper arm. And the nerve structure here that we're going to learn in this course is that this is actually where the radial nerve travels from the posterior part of the arm to the anterior part of the arm. And guess what? Ancient acupuncturists pass on points at precise interchanges of when the nerve becomes superficial in these regions. So we're going to actually learn to palpate this, and through palpation be able to put a needle close to it and then stimulate it. And so in the next video, we're going to see what happens when we stimulate this radial nerve trunk. So what you're seeing there is that you're seeing thumb and index finger extension, which is obviously responsible, innervated by the radial nerve. And the fact that the thumb and index finger can extend from a stimulation in the upper arm as opposed to the lower arm implies that, demonstrates that extension of the thumb and index finger occurs through a nerve stimulation. So this is a highly valuable, let's say in the case of neurorehabilitation, when the patient has suffered a stroke and then they lost the ability to use one side of their body. This is something that we often will use in conjunction with central nervous system stimulation techniques such as like scalp acupuncture to create a simultaneous peripheral and central nervous system treatment. May I have the next slide, please? Now, speaking of central nervous system, one unique aspect of our course is that because York University has a very a high quality and very state-of-the-art MRI research facility, as an adjunct professor, I was able to work with other researchers in the MRI research facility to really characterize the acupuncture points that has been passed down for us on the scalp. So if you look at the bottom right, see the one with the person's face, you'll see that we've scanned 11 different individuals, and we populated, or in other words, we located the acupuncture points on their scalp. And then from there, with the MRI scanning software, the analysis can tell us which part of the cortex or the surface of the brain. So if you look at the big picture on the left side here, those individual pins obviously did not touch the brain. They just touched the scalp on the bottom right. But the software can tell us which part of the brain is within possible region of influence of the needles on the scalp. And if you look at the top right sagittal plane image, you can see that we actually able to um, um, compare exactly which coordinates based on the XYZ coordinate system called the stereotactic coordinate system. What are the precise cortical functional areas that the acupuncture point on the scalp may stimulate? And we were able to average this information together, so it's not just one or two people, so that we have a data that's truly representative of the average human beings. And there are other forms of scalp acupuncture out there, but we can confidently say that this is the only one that is informed by MRI. So we can actually fine tune some of the errors of the existing systems that are out there. And also we look forward to sharing with you this very unique aspect of our program in conjunction with how that can be applied to treat central nervous system disorders. May I have the next slide, please? So this is an example of a slide that would come from the third module of our course, where students learn which functional areas of the brain that are called Brahman areas, numbered by established system of nomenclature named after Dr. Brodmann. And then so students will learn that gallbladder 16, for example, if you look at the bottom inset and then compare it to the top bigger picture of the brain, stimulates area 6. That's the premotor cortex, for example. So then we are now able to really take this to a very neuroscientific level and know that when we're stimulating certain points, what is it we're actually affecting the brain? And then by studying the known established literature of what the premotor area is responsible for, such as motor planning, and as such, we can use this valuable information to treat patients that have various neurodysfunctions. Next slide, please. So just to summarize the learning outcomes of this program, one thing that we're very proud of based on this very detailed anatomical research that my support team has done is that we're going to be able to tell you how to predict the exact sensation that patients are supposed to feel. Because we know what the neuroanatomies of those points are. So if it's a sensory nerve, we know where that sensation is supposed to happen. If it's a motor nerve, when you apply electricity, we saw in the video video stimulation larger than 14, it's supposed to cause extension of the thumb index finger. And this is what I mean, we can confirm it. And this is what makes it really scientific. If you can predict something and confirm something, that means you have very high degree of intra-practitioner reproducibility, but also inter-practitioner reproducibility. Anybody that graduates from this program, when they talk about stimulating a specific point, they will all be in agreement exactly what they're doing and know that if they didn't get the results that they had hoped for, is because they didn't stimulate those specific structures accurately. We look forward to helping you understand the interrelationship between something that's very Eastern, like such as the channel meridian theory, with neurovascular system. And we're actually going to see how amazing ancient acupuncturists really knew their neurovascular anatomy. And in fact, there's no contradiction. They are just simply speaking a different language, but they are sharing the same understanding of the body. In addition to learning the theory, we're going to bring the practice and the theory all together. Not only will you understand the channel theory, but you understand how the channel theory relates to referral pain phenomena based on the work of the channel sinew dissection that we've done. We're going to be able to see how genital trigger point referral diagrams, those red colors, they show what the pain refers to. You're going to be able to learn to appreciate that, oh, that's actually a specific nerve that's being irritated by a muscle. In fact, it's not the muscle that's referring to pain, it's a muscle that might be impinging or exerting pressure on a nerve, then causing the pain. So it would completely change your understanding of dry needling and allow you to even predict and make up your own traverse diagrams in your mind and not be limited to just what the textbook is showing you. And finally, we are going to put all these skills together, which will allow us to treat very common orthopedic problems such as tennis elbow, such as cervicogenic headache or tension headache. You are going to be able to get very consistent reproducible results in these common problems. But in lesser common problems, such as nerve entrapment problems, then you're going to become the go-to acupuncturist. You can, even though these problems are not as commonly seen, but you'll be the acupuncturist that that patient have come to, and they tell you that I've already seen a bunch of other acupuncturists, but because of your understanding of the nerve-centric nature of our treatments, you'll be able to help these patients where other people have not been able to. And lastly, one of my area of passion is how to combine this information about central nervous system stimulation of the scalp through the MRI understanding and the detailed anatomy of the peripheral nervous system, how we can put the peripheral and the central system together to ultimately create a central nervous system balancing effect to help treat conditions that Western medicine considers to have very little options. For example, Parkinson's, multiple sclerosis, even motor neuron diseases like ALS. We will hope to excite you on how you can really ameliorate the quality of life of these patients, and so that you bring you tremendous reward and satisfaction in the work that you do with your patients. So I will now turn my presentation back to Odette.
Thank you so much, Poney, for that, for the presentation and for sharing more of the outcomes of the course, of the certificate. So now that we covered that, I just want to kind of go quickly through the registration process of the certificate. As you might see in your screens right now, there are two different ways how you can actually register to the certificate. We have a PDF form. If you are more comfortable either downloading and filling the form and then send it back to us, once you download the PDF, you will see the email address where you need to send it to, or you can fax it as well. The other way, in case you rather do it online, we also have an online form. And again, the information that you have to submit in either the PDF or the online form is the same. So just to give you a little bit of an idea, so we just need general information about yourself and also the course where you're registering to, the dates. In this case, you can just put summer session if that makes it easier. And just some other information that just in terms of to process your registration. Now, the other thing we require, at the same time you send us the form, we will need a 25% deposit of the total fee. I think, as I mentioned before, the cost of this course is a little bit over 5,000. So if you pay 25% of that, it will be close to 1,500 Canadian dollars. I just want to make this emphasis that is Canadian dollars to make it easier. So you will need to kind of check your exchange rate to kind of know what will be the total amount. And the way you can pay this is either, like, especially with via Visa with a credit card. You can either call us or actually just email us, and we can actually just to get your information. In the PDF form, you will be able to actually include all the information of your credit card there to make it easier. And then once we receive again the deposit and the registration form, just give us a few days and we will get back to you to confirm your registration. And I just want to tell you that the last day to register to this course is May the 29th, so that we still have a couple of weeks left for that. So once we receive, again, and we are unable to reserve your seat unless we actually receive the registration form and the deposit is really important. Now, if you ask me when is the last day to pay for this, again, we really need to receive the full payment by May 29th. That would be kind of in terms of deadlines for that. And that is in terms of registration process. Now, I just want to actually open up the session to any questions and answers. And in this case, Pony, I will actually leave you, like, if there's any kind of regular questions that you receive about the course that you want to share with us. Equally, I will share some about other questions we have received in the past. But if you want to kind of let us know, Pony, anything that you have received from previous.
Sure. Some of the common questions that I often get asked about the program is usually, how is this program different than such and such program? So there are certainly other programs offered by universities in North America. What first thing I wanted to mention is that this is an advanced program. So what this means is that this is for somebody who really wants to challenge and improve their skills. This is not an entry-level program for a clinician who may not have learned acupuncture before. And so your previous training acupuncture will be reviewed on an individual basis. As a general rule of thumb, we follow WHO's recommendation of 200 hours, but each case will be assessed individually. Now, the program is why we consider advanced program? Because first of all, the program is called an Integrative Acupuncture Program. And what that means is that we really try to bridge the theories of Eastern acupuncture with the modern science of neuroanatomy and neurophysiology. And you saw how we even bring MRI research into this. So this is really, really cutting edge material that is graduate level material. But there are programs out there that may not be so sympathetic towards Eastern medicine. There are certain programs that brand themselves as being scientific, and as if to suggest that something that is not Western medicine would not be scientific. So it's clear that we want to impress upon you that we are in a very inclusive approach to acupuncture. We will revere and respect the ancient teachings, but there's no reason why that cannot work harmoniously with modern scientific understandings. And so this program is something that I've created based on my own learning curiosity, is because I have, fortunately, or maybe it's my curse, that I have understanding in both East and West, that for me, I could see the similarity, and that's what excites me and motivates me to become better in acupuncture. So we look forward to sharing this program with those of you that are really looking forward to that intersection, so that you can, as Odette said, be able to benefit from the best of both worlds in your practice to acupuncture. Also, I have some of the positive feedback I've gotten from other participants in the past is that part of the reason why they want to take this course is maybe they are trained as an Eastern acupuncturist, but they find themselves working in an integrative clinic alongside chiropractors and physiotherapists, or they find themselves being hired as a staff acupuncturist in a Western hospital institution, and they would like to have the terminology and the language to communicate what it is that they're doing with their colleagues in a Western medical setting and terrain. So this would be just the type of course that would be ideal for individuals that either are already currently working in this interdisciplinary fashion, or aspire to position themselves so that they can be working in a hospital or research environment, working with more of the conventional biomedical type of team. As far as the content goes, the focus of the program is more orthopedic, more nerve-related, and more neurodegenerative, so treating strokes and Parkinson's and multiple sclerosis and whatnot. And the reason why the program is designed like that is because that is, in our humble opinion, what acupuncture is the best for. But that's not to say that acupuncture may not be helpful for other conditions which we don't focus as much on, such as internal medicine problems. So we do, believe it or not, teach a few protocols for internal medicine issues such as uh, uh, allergies, allergic rhinitis, even for urinary incontinence. And the reason why we are able to offer treatments in these things is because we have a deep understanding, which we will learn, of the peripheral nervous system's relationship to these internal organs or glands and structures. So that what I want to impress upon you is that even though this program may seem to be quote unquote only neurological and anatomical, if you understand the nervous system, then there's no only, because everything is controlled by the nervous system. You will be able to know how to treat any internal medicine problems based on your understanding of, for example, the segmental relationships of the peripheral nervous system to the spine, to the corresponding sympathetic innervation levels of the organs. So that our goal is to give you the tools so that you can problem solve any given clinical problem that might walk in your door. Lastly, uh, uh, the one thing that the students have given us very positive feedback about our course is that they really like the opportunity to work in the cadaver lab. The cadaver lab is an opportunity to answer a lot of questions that they may not even be aware of. But as they say, seeing is believing. Once you actually, it's one thing to sit in class and listen to myself and my other instructor explain this point relates to this nerve on paper, but it's a totally different thing when you actually see it and can touch it. And then you now have a much deeper appreciation of acupuncture as a whole, but also you have an idea what is it that your needle is supposed to be interfacing when you're practicing on a patient. And so the cadaver lab opportunity is based on all account and feedback, extremely valuable for you to connect from the presentation in class to the cadaver intermediary, and then finally to the patient that you're actually going to be needling in your practice every day. This course was designed in such a way so that anatomy is not just boring on a piece of paper. It's what we call applied anatomy, and you use that to get reproducible needling sensation, which translates to reproducible patient outcomes. So I will end there and hand it back to Odette.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much, Poney. So I just from my side, I'm just going to cover a couple of regular questions we get asked. So first of all is, do I qualify? I know Poney emphasized a lot in kind of the prerequisites, but if you still have questions about that, I'm just sharing here our contact information, our email address. If you want to just send us an email, a brief email with your previous experience, and we can share this with Poney. And then thanks to his advice, we're able to get back to you and then confirm if you actually will be able to, if you qualify to this course, or more than anything, if you will get any benefit from taking this course, because as Poney mentioned, it's not an entry-level one. So we just want to make sure you kind of get the most out of it. So if you want to email us with your with a really small kind of sharing your experience, we can get back to you about that before you register. Now, the second question we get asked specifically from international professionals is about accommodation, and if the accommodation is covered as part of this, or if any flight tickets or any additional travel requirements. So no, in the fees that I mentioned, that is 5,500, there's no travel arrangements included as part of this. There's no accommodation either. Now, this will be more of the learner's responsibility, because we know that depending on your personal needs, we actually, we will leave it to you to look for the best accommodation, and either close to York University campus, or you have the option to stay downtown. The York University Kiel campus if coming from the downtown area by subway, you will make close to 40 minutes. That is not bad for Toronto, and specifically one of the biggest cities in North America. So, and is really accessible. So that would be one option if you want to stay downtown to do something later after the days of the certificate. If you want to actually visit some popular places, you can stay downtown. There are different type of hotels depending on your budgets. That's why we're leaving this up to you. You also have the option, and again, if you send us an email, there's York University offers some other residences also in the campus. Again, we are able to share that information in case you're looking for a lower budget kind of accommodation or something really close to where you're going to take your certificate. That's another option. But just take in mind that in case you want to go to downtown, you will need to always take the subway to go there to do something in the downtown area. Now, flights, again, is not included. The only thing that is included as part of the cost is material. The course fees, lunches are included during the days of the certificate. That is what is covered as part of the cost, and materials as well. So you don't have to pay extra for that. And so in terms of, again, just summarizing what is like how to register to this, just by submitting your form and also paying the 25% deposit. So those are usually the typical questions we get asked. But again, we are available if you want to give us a call. The phone number, if you say the phone number is 416-736-2100. The reason why you put 1 is because it's a country code for Canada, and the extension number is 22170 if you want to give us a call, or the email address. Again, we're also sharing our website, and in case you want to kind of read in detail more information about the certificate or who we are as an institution as well. So thank you again for attending this info session. And if anything, we can get back to you by email. Thank you so much. Thank you, Poney. Thank you so much for helping us with this session.